Date is Tuesday, May 14th. The time is 7:16 p.m. Calling this meeting of the Westport School Committee to order. If we could stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, this meeting is being recorded. First, entertain comments and statements from the public. Okay, seeing none, we will move to our informational agenda. We have our student representatives here tonight. Thank you.
I guess I'll take it first. Good evening, Superintendent Aubin, members of the school committee, and everyone else in attendance this evening. And a special welcome to the newest members of the school committee, Mr. Pacheco and Mr. Thrasher. Welcome. So first off, the halfway point for Term 4 was last Friday, May 10th. Progress reports for this term will be posted to the portal by tomorrow, May 15th. There will be an early dismissal this Thursday, May 16th, for staff training. And there will be no school on Monday, May 27th, in observance for Memorial Day. MCAS testing concluded today for the middle school students. There will be some makeups that will take place through May 24th. The 8th grade semi-formal will take place on Friday, May 17th, at Whites of Westport. The Westport Middle High School band concert will be held on Monday, May 20th at 6:30. On next Wednesday, May 22nd at 6 o'clock in the Westport Middle High School cafeteria, there will be a grade 4 to grade 5 transition forum. This is a wonderful opportunity for incoming 5th graders to tour the building, meet the faculty, and learn about expectations as they enter the middle school next year. Please join us on Thursday, May 23rd from 6 to 8 to see the incredible talents of our art students at the Westport Middle High School. This will take place on the second floor, art rooms, and hallways. Field Day will be held on Friday, May 24th. Let's hope for some nice weather, and thank you to the Middle High School Student Council and Middle High PTO for sponsoring this event. The 8th graders will be heading off to Washington, D.C. on Tuesday, June 4th, and will return home on Friday, June 7th. And lastly, a save the date for 8th grade families. The 8th grade promotion ceremony will be held on Wednesday, June 12th at 6 p.m. in the Westport Middle High Auditorium. Now for some sports information. The spring sports season is well underway, and we'd like to cheer on all the students who have dedicated the effort and time to participate on a team. First, the boys' middle school baseball team is working hard and currently has a record of 0-6-2. The girls' JV softball team has a strong record of 4-3. The boys' JV team is at a record of 7-3. This year, there will be a middle school athletics award night, which will be held on May 28th at 5 p.m. in the auditorium, so save the date. And we also have some middle school students on the boys and girls varsity tennis teams, but I will allow Jack to report on that information. And that is all. Good night.
Ryan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening, Superintendent Aubin and all in attendance this evening. First off, I would like to give a big and warm welcome to Mr. Pacheco and Mr. Thrasher. We look forward to working with you and seeing you at upcoming school committee meetings. All right, starting off, some important dates. I know Ryan said some of these already. It's hard to believe, but Term 4 is halfway over, and progress reports for this term will be available on the portal by tomorrow, May 15th. There's an early dismissal this Thursday, May 16th for staff training, and there will be no school Monday, May 27th in observance of Memorial Day. The last day of school for students in grades 1 through 11 is Friday, June 14th, and this will be an early dismissal day. The National Honor Society induction ceremony will take place this Wednesday, May 15th at 7 p.m. in the auditorium. Congratulations to all the students who will be inducted and honored. AP exams will wrap up this week for all AP students. I do believe the last one is AP Bio this Thursday. And the junior-senior prom will take place this Saturday, May 18th. It will be held at the Fall River Country Club, and pickup is at 10 p.m. Math MCAS for all grade 10 students will be Tuesday, May 21st, and Wednesday, May 22nd. This past Saturday, Westport gathered to crown this year's Mr. Westport. All the contestants shined on stage, but in the end, only one could take home the crown. Congratulations to Cameron Moniz for being crowned Mr. Westport 2024. We would like to thank the athletic boosters, Mr. Nunes, Tanya Quinlan, and Melissa Lambert for making this event possible. As Ryan previously mentioned, the Westport Middle School High School will be hosting an art show on Thursday, May 23rd from 6 to 8 p.m. we hope many people visit to enjoy and appreciate the talents of our art students and their amazing creations. Wildcat athletes who played a sport this year will be recognized at the Athletic Award Night, which will be held Tuesday, May 28th at 6 p.m. And lastly, for information, the Scholarship and Award Night will be held on Thursday, May 30th at 6 p.m. in the auditorium. Mrs. Ruel will be presenting, and I would like you all to join us to celebrate students who received scholarships and awards for all of their hard work. Now for athletics. Starting off, I would like to congratulate Corinne Holden for receiving an honorable mention in the Boston Herald Girls Basketball All-Scholastics and League All-Stars. Now for the spring sports season, it's going strong, and we're just past the halfway point. The boys varsity baseball team is on an 8-game win streak with a current record of 9-3. Their next home game will be this Friday against Holbrook at 3:30 p.m. The boys are currently ranked at number 7 for the Division V MIAA Power Rankings for baseball. The girls varsity softball team has been playing hard, and they currently stand at 5-8. Their next home game will also be this Friday against Holbrook at 3:30. The girls are currently ranked number 33 for the MIAA Power Rankings. Our developing and dedicated lacrosse team is currently at 2-12, and their next home game will be this Wednesday against Blue Hills at 3:30 p.m. Our boys varsity tennis team has a current record of 5-5, and their next match will be away at Diamond this Wednesday. And they will also have a home match this Friday against Wareham. The boys currently rank number 20 in the Division IV MIAA Power Rankings. Lastly, the girls varsity tennis team is currently 1-7 and will be playing a home match against Diamond this Wednesday. I would also like to congratulate our esports team that made the MSAA state tournament and competed in the semifinals in Foxborough this past week. They had a great season, and we can't wait to see what they accomplish next year.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
You guys can now go home.
Or you can stick around for this.
Run where you can.
take going home personally.
Thank you. And to reiterate, too, what our student representative said, there's a lot going on at the end of the year here, so certainly invite the public to our games to watch our
Absolutely.
student athletes and some of the events that we have going on, so, we'll love community involvement there. Okay, moving along in our informational agenda, we have our superintendent report. Mr. Robin?
Thank you, Chair Gendro. Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to give a heartfelt thank you to our town residents who showed up to the meeting last week and actually voted to sustain the select board number. That was the original number that would give us an additional $150,000 or so. And while not solving all of our financial burdens, as you're painfully aware of, the fact that the town came out and really showed support for the schools was quite heartwarming. And I don't ever want to take that for granted. Anytime you're making a vote that hits your pocketbook, it's always very tough to look at what's best for everybody. But the town residents did that last meeting, and I couldn't be more grateful to them. Speaking in terms of budgeting, both Mrs. Raposa and myself have been working with our staff to try and meet the request from the town select board and the town manager to put together a 5-year plan for the schools. The struggle we're facing is that on numerous occasions, Mr. Hartnett had suggested that as part of the 5-year plan, that the schools should not expect any increases in excess of 3.5%. I would like to point out that this is hugely problematic, and in speaking with Superintendent Robidoux from Swansea, in his tenure, which started in 2016, the lowest that he remembers the budget being is somewhere around 3.8%, with typically somewhere over 5% would be the normal budget increase. To give you some perspective, in our 2023-24 total budget, we had an increase of 5.41%. And if we go back a year earlier, the increase was 5.68%. So you can imagine what, depending on a 3.5% increase from the town each year will do to what is already one of the leanest, I think, budgets in the state of Massachusetts. And, you know, I keep offering anybody the challenge of finding me a leaner administrative staff, and I will defer to that. But the fact of the matter is, we want to comply with the request of a 5-year plan, because clearly it's always good to plan going forward. But we also, you know, there's a real politique to a 3.5% increase in a building, in a district where we've tried hard to keep direct services as full as we possibly can by keeping people in front of kids. A 3.5% budget over the next year and then 4 years later is going to be absolutely decimating. It will be death by 1,000 razor cuts. So, you know, I am painfully aware of, you know, everything from inflation to, you know, the challenge that families face. And I think what we have done, quite frankly, and I try not to be bombastic, but what this administration and the school committee has done together over the past 4 years, I think, is amazing in terms of being able to provide our students with all of the things that we've provided them under terribly tight financial consideration. 3.5% moving forward is untenable and will lead to legitimate cuts that will increase the quality of education here in Westport. And I just want the public to understand that this is not hyperbolic. This is not me begging. I don't beg anybody for anything. The reality is, this is the facts on the ground. The past 2 years, we've seen increases of 5.41% and 5.68%, and we've still had to cut, literally, and I don't have the number in front of me, but a ton of positions with 5.4%. Imagine 3.5%. So I'm not here to fight with the town. I'm just here to report the news that if this is the direction they're going in, the committee is going to have a profound challenge moving forward. And I just want you to be ready for that. And that's all I have, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Tom. Any questions from the committee? Okay. Next, we have our bill warrant dated 5/3/24 for $127,876.87 and 5/17/24 $368,979.95. Committee has received these documents. If there are any questions, we can refer them to our business office. With that being said, we'll move to our student and staff attendance report.
Sure.
Which is also circulated to the committee. Are there any specific questions from the committee on the numbers you received? Or?
I just wanted to say thank you to the staff and the superintendent for providing the historical report that I had requested from the last meeting. I am a little curious just about the MAC back in February. We had an 85% student attendance report, or student attendance for that particular month. Was any idea if there was a particular illness going on that time, or does it just happen?
I would hate to, Attorney Fash, I'd hate to even surmise, to tell you the truth. I know that COVID was, and you're talking about after the holiday, people have traveled. Quite frankly, I don't know anyone who travels who doesn't come back with the sniffles at the very least. So
Fair enough.
So I think that might have played a role. I will tell you that I looked at the data over the past couple of years, and we've been averaging 93% as a district. So this number outside of that outlier, I would suggest is pretty consistent, and we will report out an end-of-year report, not only for the district, but for all of the schools, so that you have that available.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Again, that was the outlier there, so I was
Indeed,
very
yeah.
curious.
Holidays,
But thank you
we
again.
always, holidays, even before COVID, it's always,
Understood. Thank you.
no, thank you.
Any other questions? All right.
And if I may, Chair.
Sure.
Gendro, I am meeting with Principal Charette in regards to any students who may be close to that, attendance issue, that find a way to get them over the hump, because in the end, we want our kids graduating, and we're close to the finish line. So I will report out to that as well in next meeting.
Thank you for the update, Melissa.
Thank you very much.
Can we take C, so,
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. Okay, we're going to move on to our action agenda and take item C out of order. Ms. Simonis, if you would be willing to
and I know he loves
speak
our
to this.
meetings and
Yeah,
all, but
yeah.
thought you might
And
want to
thank you
go
for
home.
being
Open chair,
here and
my
sticking
friend.
with us.
Second place, huh? Not too shabby.
Third. Not too bad.
Not too shabby.
Good evening, committee. Thank you. Oh, I can start or you can start. I don't know.
No, please, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm here to present, welcome new members, Mr. Pacheco, Mr. Thrasher. Hi, I'm Rick Monis. I'm the Media Center Specialist, resident DJ, resident esports coach. I gotta be missing something.
You are.
International Exchange Club, anyway, I'm here to present the trip itinerary for 2026. As we have, those of us from the committee previous are in understanding that we have, we're deigning to kind of change the, a little bit the design of the program and increase accessibility from 8th through 12th grade. So with that in mind, and offer distinctly unique experiences that appeal to a set of students that may be more historically and culturally educationally minded, and those that might be more hands-on, ecologically environmentally minded. So with that, for the 2026 trip retinue, we've put together the Discover the Dominican using EF tours again, which we've had great success with so far, continuing over the last years. We're going to offer the Dominican Republic, and the itinerary everybody should have great. For February of 2026, open 8th through 12th grade, and South Korea in April of 2026, again, open 8th through 12th grade. We intend to launch these meetings this month, which gives families the longest amount of time to make it financially feasible for them. Continuing to work with EF as far as keeping pricing down in an era of increased travel costs. But I think the committee will see, and we've seen, the real desire and support for the travel program here. Just over the last weekend for our 2025 trip next year, enrolled another 7 or 8 folks for the Portugal and Spain trip that's coming up next year. So I presented these to the committee on behalf of myself and Nathaniel, who will be running one of these trips. And I am here if anybody has any questions, and excited for these.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got kind of two very different questions. One, were we going to do both of the trips from 8 to 12? I thought
Going forward, sorry, I
No,
apologize.
no.
The idea, what we had discussed in the last time Nathaniel and I presented, the idea that going forward, starting in 26, from the jump, we will present them as the A through 12th, and everybody knows that coming in.
That was my understanding, was it wouldn't have affected current trips, but going
Correct.
forward.
Yep.
Right.
So, both trips will be 8th grade to 12th grade, and do you have a distinct, how are you going to manage them differently?
Great question. I think through both Nathaniel and my experience, we are able to kind of have that flexibility where, and the other benefit too with both of these trips, we have the flexibility of maintaining kind of a tighter chaperone leash, for example, on younger students that need that, but also have the flexibility of older students to be able to have that greater sense of, develop those kind of more age-appropriate skills. One of the benefits of using EF is that all of these tours are, according to their development team, are designed to be, all the ones that we use are specifically advertised as age appropriate for 8th through 12th graders. So that was kind of the thinking behind that as well. I would imagine that you'll see some trending more towards one and trending more towards other, just because of cohorts of students that are like, oh, all of my friends want to go on this, and we'll see that. But I think, like we had discussed in the previous meeting, the design, the intent was, for example, I saw, students that had
missed out on the opportunity to go to Japan. And I know that you can't offer everything to everyone. However, some of these, I think some of these specific trips, like going to South Korea, for example, are really something that you want to give the most amount of folks possible the ability and option to go to.
So I think one of the, I guess, 8 to 12. Okay, I think that's just a concern, is that when you look at your 8, 9, and 10th graders, just making sure that they're chaperoned, because they're going to be different than your 11th and 12th graders. And
100%.
I know you know that, but, so I think that's just my concern. The second thing, and the last thing I promise, is there a way to kind of look at this long-term, like really long-term? Because there are some students who aren't going to be able to afford this unless they save for like years. So like, is there a way to develop some sort of schedule, even if it's, I don't know, tentative or something, and engage, maybe this is going to sound crazy, but engage your elementary school parents and say, listen, when your kids get to the 8th grade, this is what we're going to be able to offer them, and developing some sort of like financial planning for them to be able to go. Because there are a lot of kids for, what is the cost, like $4,000 to $5,000?
Yep.
They'll never be able to afford that.
Totally agree. The earliest the company lets you plan out is 3 years. So, like, for example, if I wanted to pre-plan a tour for 2027 right now, we could do that. That would, and even with these tours that are 2 years out, we are still getting that kind of month. They're very good with their like payment options and things like that. So right now, both of these tours are around the $200 a month area, which is what I try to strive to get, because I want them to be affordable for a student with a part-time job to be able to pay for them themselves. That, a lot of times the students will get a lot of financial support for that. So I think in developing a long-term plan, now with this, there's a couple of things that we definitely want to do. We want to make sure folks aren't kind of inundated. And the other thing too is I do notice that in the younger grades, they don't students don't necessarily know what they're particularly interested in, and until it comes a little bit closer, or they kind of change their minds. But I think what we can explain to families is that every year there will be a trip that is kind of culturally focused, on a more traditional tourism and that sort of experience, and one is a little bit more ecological or adventurous focused. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's in a warm place. For example, Nathaniel and I have discussed going, like Iceland is another place like that. So I think we can, up and down, let folks know every year there'll be a trip there'll be kind of a more culturally focused trip, and there'll be a more ecologically focused trip. And students have really three years, they really would have almost 3 years to kind of decide. With 3 years, I would say, once going forward from this, I think we could, for example, get 2027 on the books earlier, for sure. So, and then going forward, once already last year, beginning with like Spain and Portugal with the committee, we started that 6 months earlier than we had traditionally, and that shows in our enrollment and things like that. So, and that made that trip very, very affordable to those that had signed up early. So, I'm definitely very much interested in getting that pattern set up as early as possible.
Do we have anything on the website? I'm sorry, I did lie. There was one more question. Do we have anything on the website, like all the pictures from everything? Because it's so amazing.
Pictures. Yeah. I send pictures to our social media team, but now, thinking about now that we have such a catalog, maybe we could discuss, and maybe Mr. Aubin, we could figure out having a page, having a sub page on the.
Just send me an email.
Yeah.
Send me an email.
Yeah,
We'll
and we
put
can
that
just
together.
we can put. I mean, just okay.
That's
great.
Yeah.
I was taking what
We can make a page for,
what
strictly.
Melissa was saying is maybe we talk about financial planning and all the different grades, that middle school or, 4th, 5th, you start showing the pictures.
and then maybe meet up with the credit union and have a representative credit union. Let's plan a travel, so you can have
Sure.
something to travel.
Travel club.
A travel club,
Yeah.
right. And so their birthday money, whatever. So you can start that early enough.
Right.
You know, 4th, 5th grade, talking about financial planning. This is what it's gonna cost, this is how much. And that will help them, you know, because I know my kids wouldn't have never been able to afford that. But if in 4th grade, we had something that we had planned like that, then by maybe the time they were seniors, they could have.
Sure.
And,
Yeah.
but that way you put it into a financial planning program.
Rick, is there ever a minimum number of kids to go on these, or do you just adjust the amount of chaperones? if you get a low number of
Well, you
sign-ups?
can't run it without, the minimum is 6.
Okay.
You have to have 6 folks to go to have your first chaperone.
Gotcha.
Typically, we try to have a minimum of 12 to have 2. But yeah, 6 is a minimum. But the company's been very good. You know, if that ever happens, the trip dissolves, and you know nobody's on the hook for anything.
Great, thank you.
How many did you have that went to Germany?
30 students and 30 total, including 36 total, including staff, a few parents and students, 27 kids, I think, 26 or 7
Thank you
kids.
for those experiences for our
My pleasure.
students. I mean, for anybody who's out there, if you know, your child's thinking of going to Westport, just thinking of them being able to travel internationally. I mean, my daughter was out of the country before I was. You know, that's such a tremendous experience, and now she wants to study abroad in college. It opened up her eyes and the possibilities that this world has for her that she wouldn't have had she not had those trips. I mean, really. And
Thank you.
not all colleges, not all schools, high schools are
No.
doing that.
I see so many students go out and come back within 10 days, and like there are so many soft skills and being on your own and making choices for yourself and that students don't necessarily always get the opportunity for. And like when you're on these, it's a little trial by fire, and they really step up. And this particular trip, I was incredibly impressed with the students. You know, we saw these incredible historic cities, and we also went to Auschwitz and Birkenau, and that was just what one would expect it was. And the kids came back very moved.
So do we need a motion to approve this?
We do.
I make a motion to approve the 2 field trips as listed to
Dominican and.
the Dominican and South Korea.
Does the superintendent approve of these?
What question?
Typically. No, I just had a question, if it's okay with the chair. if I
Is there a
can-
second first before we
Yeah.
discuss?
Second.
Okay, Gloria.
Okay, thank you very much, and I apologize, it just, God, I hate to be the skunk at the lawn party, I really do, and I try not to be.
No worries.
But, you know, I'm thinking, for example, if you were to, you know, book a trip to Israel prior to October 6th, the travel advisory would be significantly different than it is now. Right now, the travel advisory for Israel, West Bank, and obviously Gaza is, don't go. When we take a look at Korea, I believe it's level 1, which is the lowest level of concern. Still not something that is, I mean, you've got the 38th parallel and the demilitarized zone, so. And things that concern me, and I don't want to get into the weeds on this, but it's clear that North Korea has been supplying weapons to the Russians, and that could have a geopolitical effect on the part of, you know. So I guess my question, first of all, is what happens if there were to be a travel advisory change that would make it almost like to a point where, what is the sort of time frame in which you have to be able to adjust to that?
So EF has a very robust policy regarding that, and they monitor the Department of State's travel advisories constantly, and they offer what's called their peace of mind policy, which is not on the little brochure, but is pretty well delineated on their site. And you know, in the event of a Department of I just said
State
it.
Department.
State Department, changing of that. The nice thing about working with EF is that they have inventory all over the world. So if, for example, something was unsafe to go to, something changed, even within, they do like, for example, we were just in 5 different countries over the course of 10 days. If within that tour, Hungary, for example, became unsafe to travel, according to them, they would shift to adding time in Czech, going to Slovakia for more time. So they have the ability to pivot on a dime like that, and that's embedded in their embedded in all the students' things. So basically, what would happen if, in the case of the entire destination being a place that was unsafe to travel to, that would get pushed back to myself. We would discuss with with everyone, with all the travelers. An alternative would be proposed, or refunds would be given out. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Again,
they're-
I
they're-
don't-
I
yeah.
think we talked
To be
No,
about
no, I think it's totally, obviously,
Yeah.
with, it's totally reasonable. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
Yep, my pleasure.
Further discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Opposed? All right, that carries. Thank you
Did
very
you-
much.
Thank
Jay,
you.
what-
Congratulations.
Jay,
Thank you
you
for sticking
opposed.
around.
I'm sorry,
Appreciate it.
was there further discussion on that item?
I want to make sure that the superintendent is approving of these before we do.
Yeah.
I see the form, and there's no signature here. And obviously, with the conversation there, is it approved by the superintendent before it comes to us?
Ultimately, it goes, but the committee has to approve.
We approve it
Ultimately,
first.
you're
before
the
he gets
arbiters,
it.
because, obviously, it involves a whole host of different things.
It's a-
For example, one of the things that I wish I had mentioned was, the other thing I get a little bit concerned about when we go overseas is the level of, or the quality of medical care.
I can speak to that.
Yep, please.
I've been first responder to 2 anaphylactic incidents so far in my experience in this. First on the scene in one, I was the person that injected the EpiPen and took the ambulance to the hospital. All the travelers are protected by insurance, including and up to transportation. In the case of something so severe that an expatriating flight needed to happen, that is covered by their policies. So,
Excellent.
Mr. Monos, I would think that these are communicated to families prior to.
100 yep.
Right.
mhm.
This is important stuff,
Yeah.
obviously.
Oh, for sure.
But is there any objection from the superintendent on any of these, or?
Again, the level in the Dominican is 2 right now, so it's not
Right.
1, it's 2. We know that if you look at the advisory, part of it is that some of the things that are happening are actually now starting to go into the tourist area. So I know that Mr. Monas will take real care in keeping abreast of that. I trust completely the work that he does as the organizer of this. I think he's done an amazing job, and I want to say that publicly.
Thank you.
So again, these are contingencies I think families have a right to know in the event that, when I went to Cancun in 2018, there was a guy that they pulled out of the drink, and they were doing CPR on him for a half hour before, and an ambulance still hadn't come. So I don't want to be like, it's just, these are contingencies that I think
Right.
we have a responsibility to prepare for the safety of our kids. So
My
I know
understanding,
you'll
my
do that.
understanding is the organization has a policy in place, and that you would certainly communicate with the committee and
Absolutely.
administration. Should
Absolutely.
anything-
And
should
of course,
anything come up.
should anything change,
Right.
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So, also, according to, I don't know if it's our policy or if it's, whenever a field trip is out of state, the school committee has to approve it. So that's why I think it's coming to us first, but I think that, Jason, thank you for asking that, because that's a very important
Right,
question.
and I'm just looking at the
Appreciate
form in
that.
terms of the order for the form. The superintendent's approval is before ours, so and his signature isn't there, so I just wanted to make sure.
And I do know that, on that side, I know that a nurse doesn't always go, but,
The nurse has been lately on almost all of them, right?
They yeah.
they didn't go on the last one, though. There was no nurse. I mean, and I don't think that this is a school committee decision, but I mean, I think that it's safer to have
A
a nurse.
a
you know? Yeah, a
recommendation?
recommendation would be to have a nurse there, because while you can do that, and I thank you for doing that, having the nurse and you there, I think erring on the side of caution is always best. And if the school has to, flip the bill for it or whatever to have a nurse go, I would prefer to have a nurse go over not you, you have to be there, but a nurse go over a teacher, because a nurse is going to have more experience than,
If it's okay with the committee, I will definitely work with both Mrs. Reposa and Mr. Monast on trying to meet that goal, if that's.
Sure, yeah,
We
let's
definitely-
discuss it. yeah.
I don't disagree with you at all. I think, knowing the healthcare system, even in this country, if you don't have somebody who can advocate for you, sometimes it can get really sketchy. So I just think that it would be a win-win. We'll just have to figure out logistically how we go about
Sure.
doing that.
when we went to Washington, which was not overseas,
Oh, my
like,
God.
a couple
I
people
wonder what
got
the travel advisor for
sick.
Washington DC is, to be honest.
No joke.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
a number of people got sick and had to,
I
but
remember that.
everybody was taken care of. So I can say, to the families out there that, children were brought to the hospital, so were some chaperones, but everybody was taken care of, and it was only because they had the norovirus. It wasn't like, but
And the
still.
communication was excellent.
Yeah,
It really
it
was.
was- it
Mrs.
was
Monas
great.
was in communication with me and the families, and I'm very proud of the work that we do as far as providing our kids a opportunity that a lot of other kids don't have. And, it's something that, it's an experiential thing, again, ties in with the strategic plan of experiential learning.
Sure.
So there's a lot of reasons why it's a win-win. I just get very nervous
Sure.
under the
Yep.
geopolitical conditions as they are right now. It's just really
Right.
scary.
Did we vote on that?
We did, we took a
Okay.
vote on that, and that was approved.
Okay.
Thank you, committee.
Thank you very much.
No, you're fine, please. No, it's all good, it's all good. Thank you, guys.
Rick, have a good
you.
one.
You too.
Thank you. Thank you to the committee for raising those issues. Those are important discussions, so we appreciate that. Moving on to item B in our action agenda, the FY '25 school budget.
We have to do A. Do we have to do the minutes first?
I apologize, yes. Review, thank you, thank you. Review and act on the school committee meeting minutes, Thursday, April 18th, 2024, and the school committee budget work session dated 5/2/24.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second.
Okay, we have motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Now going into our discussion on an action item on the FY '25 school budget. The school budget was approved at town meeting at $22,651,207. That was based off of an amendment that was made on the floor of town meeting that amended the Finance Committee's recommended figure and gave the school district roughly $150,000 above what was printed on the warrant article. And I would like to thank the parents and staff and folks at this table who showed up at town meeting to support our budget. We had pretty significant support from the community on that, so we'd like to thank the voters at town meeting as well. While this doesn't solve all of our issues, as the superintendent mentioned before, this certainly puts us in a better position than we were in going into town meeting. So, there are still cuts that are sustained with this number, and those are included in the packet. And the figure that, the difference between the school committee's recommended budget and the budget approved at town meeting amounted to $446,000. So that is the amount that has to be resolved as part of our budget going into FY '25. So that's what this discussion is around. So I would like to open it up to our business manager, Michelle Raposa, to walk us through some of the items here.
Sure, so as you can see, as we met during our budget subcommittee meeting, that we had gone through all the different options prior to town meeting happening so that we could have an idea of which direction the committee and Mr. Aubin wanted to go. So I think we had narrowed it down to the gray section at the bottom. You would see that we had, after meeting with department heads, we've had many meetings this year, all the way working up to this point. So we tried to make this as least impactful on our student learning as we possibly could. And we think that we kind of did a good job getting down to where we needed to be. The new 3-year transportation contract came in $145,000 less than what we had anticipated. We'd anticipated a 15% increase. We were fortunate enough that it came back. I mean, we made some modifications within the contract that helped to get this number down. So we were pleased with this. And it also has the ability, it's a 3-year contract, but then it has an ability to do 2 one-year rollovers at the same amount that we end the 3rd year in. So that is will be a huge, not necessarily savings, but it will be a savings at the end for the district at that point.
And if I may, I personally thank Mr. Amaral for that, because is a huge opportunity to save some money. Listening to other districts and superintendents, they were facing much more draconian.
I know I've heard
increase.
other districts coming in significantly higher than what they had budgeted.
I mean,
so-
Mrs. Raposa, I hate to give her any credit, but she did a really great job, so, you know.
He moved over a little more so that I wouldn't kick him, just so you know. So then, as we go down the list, we talked about the closure of the old high school, that there would be $90,373 savings. We've spent a lot of time speaking of this, probably for the last few years, since we've
Yep.
closed the middle school, the high school being over there with students in there. Then we moved down to charging one of our custodians to our food service department, because the middle school, high school is as busy as it is, and they spend a good 2.5 to 3 hours in that kitchen there, and between the other ones, that I could look at taking one of the charges for one custodian and charging it off to the revolving account. We've been fortunate with the school lunch revolving account since COVID, that the funding, having free meals, has helped to kind of build that revolving account up. So, based on that, this would buy us a couple of years' time. We've been notified already that next year there's going to be free meals again. So this helps also to keep that account. You have to, so in the school lunch revolving account, so that everybody understands, at the end of the school year, before you get to the end, you are never supposed to have more than 3 months of what your typical revolving has in it. So basically, if my net profit is $30,000 a month for 3 months, and that gets to $90,000, at the end of the school year, I shouldn't have more than the $90,000 sitting in that account. I am supposed to spend that money down, not necessarily on buying stuff for the school. It has to be school lunch,
Associated.
Thank you. So like last year, we did a lot of equipment at the new elementary school. We spent a lot of time redoing. They did painting, putting new ceiling tiles. We put a brand-new serving line in. We talked about changing over at the Macumber. They would like a steamer over there. That's on the ticket for this year. One of the conversations, again, was charging off one of the custodians, which helps the school budget. It helps decrease what that number is under the custodial line, and they do spend a lot of time just at the new school. Again, they're 3 hours there at one time. So there's some conversations around that, but that just gives you an idea of how that money has to be spent before the end of the year. And our auditors make me write a letter saying that by a certain date, I will spend down that money to, more or less.
And
Yes.
on that item as well, the state decides on free and reduced on an
Correct.
annual basis, right?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
And again, I want to thank the legislative delegation in Oz, did support the free lunch once again, which is an absolute huge help. I was sharing with Mrs. Raposa an article about Rhode Island, and there are districts that have over $100,000 of student lunch debt. So this is something that obviously, and it allows for, kids to have hot meals whether they can afford it or not, so.
And we don't have that debt in Westport. We only have we don't even have, I would say right now, about $800 in school debt. And that's student, and we keep it where the students come through the lunch line, they cannot purchase any additional items unless they have money in their account. And one of the other things that school lunch does participate in, we are part of the Farm to School initiative here in Westport. The Macumber School is getting a garden over there as well. We will have a student intern that will come in from the Marion Institute that is going to be participating. They will live in our school district 3 days a week. What they do is they come in, they intern, and they work together with Marion Institute and the staff that comes in from Marion Institute to be visible in the schools, to work together with the classrooms, bring them outside, do some further education. So one of the hopes moving forward is that we have a food service director at some point, besides myself, that can spend time with the kids in the schools, which I would prefer to do that, but again, this is where I need to be, is to have that food service director work with a school chef that doesn't come in and people look at chef very differently. Like, a chef can be somebody behind a counter that's being a chef. The type of school lunch chef that they have is someone that works together with the food service director, works on the school lunch menus, initiates and works together with the Farm to School project that's happening to make sure that the requirements for school lunch are implemented into the menus that they're having. And then they follow up with the staff to make sure they're following how it's cooked for the quality. So the hope is that we start the kids young at Macumber, start getting it in their brains about, farm to school cooking, involving our local farmers involved, getting them in the elementary school where they start to get more local produce, and then moving on so that when the chef would start at the middle school, high school, so that they now it's come to full tuition. And then we've taught them a better way of living. So part of that is also in their evolvement. So I know that went off topic, but because we were talking about it and we're getting the end of year, I didn't want to fail to talk about that.
Can I ask a question about the line item before?
Sure.
Closure of the old high school?
Yes, that is moving all of us out of that old high school and moving us into other buildings here.
Okay. What about the school, the after-school?
That would be as well moving over to the Macomber School.
Okay.
So the move isn't simply just to this is not an ideal situation. We're going to be bifurcating our district offices. The reality is, due to the continual cuts that are happening, we don't have the staff to support, for example, Mr. Aguirre has been by himself at the elementary school with 500 students. Our proposal next year is to move an additional administrator from the middle high over to the west to provide support there. Moving from the central office into the schools proper will allow people like Curriculum Director Kaminsky to have an office in the new building, and they'd be able to service many of the supervisory things that we need. And this is going to be very disruptive. The last thing we need in another summer is to have a disruption, but this is the reality that we face right now. And so it's not just a matter of getting out of the building. It's that the budget cuts have resulted in so many cuts to personnel, especially at the administrative level, that we need to sort of combine and try and, for example, Michelle will be going in a terribly small office in the cafeteria area to provide support, because part of her job, besides being transportation goddess and business manager, is also food service. So she will be able to provide supports in the area that there may be some shortages there. We're running into a real challenge in that there are more and more demands, and we have less and less money. So we've got to come up with a creative way to try and support our staff. And I think this is the best of what is really a really tough situation.
That's one more question. Can some of that, and I know it's not ideal, but can some of our employees go remote or hybrid? I'm thinking like our business office, I don't know if they'd want to, but I think as a district, if there's an interest to do that for those who can do some work, I think that we should be open, because we have some incredibly hardworking employees, and sometimes it's easier for them, easier for us. We might not have space. They can have shared space too.
Yep.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Michelle's here, and whatever.
No, but we can certainly talk about that and take a look at each of the jobs at the district level. But, I can tell you that Laurie is coming in whether she
Yeah.
likes it or not.
Exactly. I was looking at her, telling her, no, that's not happening.
I was going to, perhaps we can schedule a separate session where the administration can detail what that would
Yeah,
look like
that would
for the
be-
committee.
Yeah, we actually have a breakdown, and I apologize we don't have it right now, but we didn't want to go over our skis without the committee approving the move. So,
I think Jason got his hand.
Yeah, just, do we know what happens to the grounds in the building itself? I know the rumor in the past is it turns over to the town, and then it's now out of our hands. Do we have any?
the building is currently in the possession of the town. We maintain the building. So, for example, we've met with our athletic people. It looks as though the fields will not be needed until the spring of '25. But we're still going to have to maintain those fields so that our kids are not playing on an uneven surface that could cause them injury. With the idea, too, that we're also looking, obviously,
We would have to work something with the town on
indeed,
Right.
use of the fields and the maintenance.
Right, and then who
Indeed.
would take over the use of rent, like if they're gonna rent out
Right,
the
sure.
gym over there
Yep.
on the inside during the winter, who's gonna handle that? So there's like some logistics.
There are some
still that
logistics
need
things
to
if-
be-
Yeah.
Yeah.
again, this is not ideal.
Do need to-
Just,
And I think the concern there is if at any point that gets pulled out the rug gets pulled out from under us, we cannot, I don't believe, us as a school district can operate without that space in terms of fields.
Right, for the
and
fields,
everything.
for outside in spring.
so just to for the committee and superintendent's information, I am going to be having a meeting with Jim Hartnett tomorrow, kind of in my dual role as the chair of the long-term building committee as well as school committee, to discuss quite a few things regarding the school, regarding the old high school. I know in Mr. Superintendent, our previous conversations had mentioned that the fields are, maintaining the fields and making sure that those are available in the spring are paramount in
And
the
we did,
concerns.
and we
So,
did keep that
In the budget.
budgeted to maintain those fields as well. We made sure that we did not remove that, so that maintaining, mowing, lining would all remain in there, so that could help with part of your conversation there.
So this figure reflects continuing to maintain. the-
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
Which is cutting and fertilizing, so.
Cutting, fertilizing, lining.
Because correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that the total cost is somewhere around 150,000 on the.
On the
school-
town
on the school-
side.
well, on the, but on the
Right.
school side, beyond this. Or
We-
this is just the cut.
No, so
The original
school de-
agreement, I believe, was 50,000, right?
Right, the school department pays the first 50, then the town
Okay.
kicks over for the remainder. This was over and above, this is like additional cost to the school department for continuing to keep that building open. So this is where this savings is coming into play on our end by us vacating that building and moving out. The town will still remain, I don't know how they will maintain the remainder of their costs. They budget a certain amount on the town's end for that building each year. Again, how much they will, I think there's different concerns that you might run into when you speak to them tomorrow. But feel free to reach out tomorrow if you need.
I can't make this clear enough. This is not ideal. This is not, we're not doing this because we want to, have another summer of reconfiguring things. We've been through this now with the opening of this new building, the pandemic. We're exhausted, but we don't have a choice. We're looking at a $400,000 plus deficit right now, and we've got to educate kids, and it's unfortunate, but it's where we're at. And I got to tell you, it's saving my soul a little bit because I just left Durfee High School for a dedication, and if you haven't seen their fields, wow.
Haven't seen the school.
Wow. So this is not ideal. I'll just, and if you could, Attorney Thrasher, if you could, this is not like a gotcha. We're trying to survive.
Oh, yeah, no.
That's it. No personalities here. This is business.
So again, we went through every possible dime item we could. MAC secretary, we have a long-term secretary that is retiring at the MAC, Judy Oliveira, who's our executive secretary there. She's been there. She is
Before.
acting as nurse, as principal, as executive secretary for her entire career here, so she will be greatly missed. We have adjusted that new position, her replacement coming in, to not work all summer long, to help be able, so that the district would have a small amount of savings. And also, she typically does the enrollment for the pre-K and kindergarten students. We're going to move that over to our registrar right now, and she will take over, registering the new incoming pre-K and kindergarten students.
Just for 1 second. I want to make it clear again. This is, because there are some people out there who are uninformed, and I understand it. But they'll say things like, you see, you cut the budget, and yet they're able to continue doing what we're doing. Yeah, that means now the registrar, who's already maxed out, has got another duty. Keeping people in district who you're maxing out all the time is a challenge. And so
To underscore that too, this is not a level service.
it is
budget
not even
that was
close.
approved at town
No.
meeting.
Nope.
This was not level service, so.
Nope.
That's where these cuts come in, so, can we make them? We don't have a choice,
Yeah.
right, frankly,
Right.
but this is where we're at, so.
Then we have 127,000, which is a teacher and two teacher assistants. Then we move.
Where is that?
Right here.
No, I know,
where?
on the paper, but like what school?
We don't have
We're
it
not
fully
quite-
aligned
Okay,
yet,
okay.
like, we just know that we have to cut one teacher,
Okay.
two teacher assistants. So again, we have some staff out right now, so we're trying to sit down again and then relook at all this. We have all the numbers coming in to try to see, like, where can we make those
Do you have a
cuts?
timeline before you, don't you have to
Oh.
do that for a certain?
We try and do it as quickly as possible. We have to let
I think the federation's by May.
Yeah, I believe
31st.
the Federation is in May. statutorily, I think it's June, but the contract says May for our people. We want to let people know as soon as possible. And again, you know, there's going to be a little bit when people hear about this, oh, but, you know, compared to where we were 6 months ago, I would say that, you know, this committee has done yeoman's work in trying to, you know, keep people in front of kids. So I want to thank you for that.
So we also have this summer, we are not doing the summer program for the middle school students, elementary school students, and Macomber students. But we just want to be clear what that means. That is not our extended school year for any of our special ed students. It is not also anything for our high school students that need credit recovery. Those programs will continue. What these are, this is something that usually is typically done, and Mr. Aubin probably can explain it a little bit better than I can.
Enrichment.
It's more of an enrichment that we offer to students. It's nothing that we have to have, but it's something that we just choose to have. So again, unfortunately, it's an impact on some of those students, but it's, again, was a way to make some cuts that don't impact like the daily classroom or having a classroom go for 25 students to 28 students. That was our goal.
Is this for students struggling, or is this for like gardening? Like, you know, like what is that what do the summer programs typically go over?
I mean, typically they will invite students who are having some challenges, but in reality, you know, it's hard for people to understand that these are trade-offs.
I know.
They're trade-offs. They're not solutions. They're trade-offs. And I've always been of the school that every minute a child spends in our school district, if we're doing what we're supposed to, we're enriching their lives. And so this is painful. This is not being done. It's awful.
So I would say that out of everything that's listed here, and I don't like any of it, but out of everything that's listed here, the summer school for our students is, to me, the biggest impact that I want to say I'm not in agreement, but then I'm going to have to say, okay, well, where am I going to take it from, like town meeting? But I feel like something like this needs to be done, and if is there anything we can do, take from any other area? Because our students really need, or can we utilize our after-school care kids? Is there any way to do something, or can we have it a paid program? It's just, you know, we have students who are struggling, and the summertime, they have that summer slide, and if those individuals can have something more, like, can we work with our summer program and maybe get the teachers that typically would do that in there and have parents pay? I mean, can we just think about that, how we could, you know?
We'd like to, we've thought long and hard about it, and that's the challenge we face. You know, again, you know, prior to Chair Gendro taking the chair, as you know, Chair Stanton Cross gave us the directive that anything that is not mandated is the first to go. And so this is part of that.
So I hate to say it, but sports isn't mandated,
No.
right? There's certain sports, I mean, and I love sports, but neither is, you know, band or other activities, which I don't want to get rid of any of them, but, you know.
I may be able to help with that. Many of these students that would attend this other than middle school, based, I believe, on the enrollment, speaking to our out-of-school coordinator, Mrs. Shavs, many of the Mac and West students will be participating in her program. What they typically do is they attend this program in the morning, they get bussed over to her program in the afternoon. They usually will have lunch over at the school here, and then they're shipped over. So many of them will be attending
Some schooling.
receiving some type of service based on whatever curriculum she puts into her program for the summer. I don't know exactly what that is, but I don't know if that helps you at all, knowing that many of them, she just mentioned it a couple of days ago because we mentioned about feeding them.
Can the committee get a report at some point before the end of the school year on that program and projections for the summer? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And the other thing, Chair Gendro, is that we can actually give you what the numbers that we served over the past couple of years in these programs so that the committee can have
That would be helpful.
perspective.
Thank you. And I know that these were really difficult choices, and I know that it wasn't like, it just,
It's awful.
You know.
It's just awful. It's awful. I'm not going to candy coat it. It's awful.
I want to thank, too, the business department for going through these items and trying to minimize the impact on student learning during the day, because it's, you know, the bulk of our salaries of our budget are salaries, right? So a lot of cuts would have to come from salaries, so I appreciate the effort in reducing the classroom impact.
I mean, this year alone, the percentage of the budget is 80% salaries, so, you know, and.
Which has come down over the last.
Right, because it was
like,
82 the
40
year
years.
before, but it fluctuates, it's a fluid situation, and, you know, again, so we did look at the summer slide. There are myriad of, you know, arguments on both ends. Some say that that you can identify a slide, but within a matter of time in re-engaging in school, that slide is mitigated. But for those who are struggling, I get what you're saying completely, that they can't afford that. So we looked at all of this, and again, the summer being, is it usually 5 weeks, Michelle? I mean, I'm not,
Yes.
you know, so we had to sort of look at the whole, you know, to what degree.
Right.
You know, with sports, it's usually a semester, you know.
And sports is incredibly important. I'm not saying that it's not.
No, we know.
But do you know what I mean? Like, it's,
Right.
I just feel for those students who are struggling, I want to provide them with just like you do, every opportunity to be successful. And, you know, having that little extra in the summer might make a difference to someone.
I don't disagree. By the same token, and this is really hard, but these are trade-offs. I can't stress that enough. This is a trade-off.
I know it's not a resolution, but most of these students will likely be participating in some sort of
Right, in
programming.
program.
We'll
Yes.
get you that information, because that's important information. We did look at the OST program because we didn't want to leave the kids hanging. We didn't want to leave the families hanging. It's just, you know, you get to a point, like I said, you know, we went a year with an elementary school of 500. You know, the year before we had, you know, Ms. Duquette bouncing back and forth. And that's why, you know, the loss of Mrs. Oliveira, if that happened a year earlier, would have been untenable. We would have never presented that. But with the movement of administrators that we're going to do with the move, we think that we can save some money on that. So I do appreciate, you know, that I hope you understand, we've really thought
Thank you.
long and hard about this. This is not good
Thank you.
stuff. Thank you. And I want to, the budget process used to start sometime around December. It now starts in August. And this is probably, without exaggeration, the 12th iteration of this budget. And this is an incredibly, from a human capital perspective, painful for the district. And I do want to give a shout out to Michelle and her people for this is, and you, because it ends up being back and forth all the time about this. And it's just very challenging.
It's a big
very
group of
challenging.
us, but.
So they did a great job.
Yeah, that's our job.
No, this is not an ideal situation by any stretch, so, you know, these are difficult conversations regardless. I mean, this is not level service, so unfortunately, this is the situation that we're in.
We are.
So we have to make the best of the resources that we have in the district and minimize the impact on students. That's why we all serve here, is to help our students in the best way we can with the resources that we have. So we appreciate the work of the administration, business department on
And
that.
if I may, the budget process for next year will probably start in July, and it's not even a joke, because, you know, again, with that 3.5%, we know what that's going to look like, and it's going to, so anyway.
I will say, going forward, we will have to have difficult conversations around what free cash will look like going forward. There's already been discussions with the Finance Committee on, you know, escalating that figure down in subsequent years, so that will certainly be part of our conversation going into FY '26. I think we have to really take a long and hard look at that, what that looks like, and also balancing that at the same time with community support that we're getting. The voters are the ones who approve our budget at town meeting, and I think that's an important thing to consider as part of these conversations is, you know, these numbers are ultimately before the town, and the town has supported the school's budget and the amended increase that we had last Tuesday, so those are points to bring up going
I can't
into
thank them enough,
FY
really.
'26, but just wanted to raise that as an issue for the committee to look for going forward. Are there any further questions from the committee on this budget?
I don't have a question. I just want to make a comment that if you look at the amounts for the summer school program, and then I just can picture a slide on a town meeting that had, you know, the town officials and the amounts that they make. And if anybody noticed out there, school committee's not on there because school committee makes zero. So if we added that amount to here, that's almost the amount of our summer school, the amount that we don't get. And I'm not saying that I want money, but I'm not sure if the town knows that the school committee volunteers all of its time for the amount of hours, and some of us are also on multiple subcommittees. So yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
I'd just like to go back a couple of meetings and, a statement that was made, and again, seeing here with the cuts, and they're ugly, and none of us want to see any of them. But I do struggle with a statement that was made about none of them coming from the district employees or the superintendent's office. And I really struggle with that, where I see everything here that can impact students. And in looking at, the proposal, I see some opportunities there of some savings and some money that could hopefully go back towards things like summer school, which I think are very, very valuable to the students.
Okay. Are there-
So, can I just follow up? So are you saying that you find something in the budget that can be, because I think that we should have a budget subcommittee and discuss those things?
I agree.
If that's something that you think?
Absolutely.
Okay. I will say, though, that the closure of the old high school is going to impact our administration substantially, and that's $90,000. But if there's other things, if I think any of us members have any questions about the budget, especially our new members who maybe, weren't here prior to this with the budget subcommittees, then I think we should do that. When do you need this decision to be?
Probably by next week.
Okay.
Maybe.
Do we wait till
can-
next meeting, Michelle?
I don't think so. Not, I think for your staffing purposes, I think
Yeah.
you have.
June 4th, yeah, no, it's too late.
So if we could we do like a Zoom meeting or something and just be able to ask questions?
Like
Do you think we
next week?
would that be something that you'd be available for, Jason?
Yes.
Okay. I think it's important. How about?
I
Christopher?
would certainly be open to, depending on what day. Are we talking a full committee meeting or school committee meeting here again? Or are we talking
Just like a work session,
Okay.
like a remote work session.
Yeah.
What might be beneficial
Would
too.
we
if-
need an action item on that, or are we approving the overall figure tonight? We're approving the
I think
figure tonight.
you can approve the figure tonight,
Without
because
these
that's
line
not
item
changing. That
changes.
was approved
Right.
at town meeting. The budget subcommittee would just be to discuss, like,
Cuts.
someplace else for cuts. What might be beneficial too, if somebody could just, like, if any of the committee members send me an email and say, these may be some of the line items that I'd be looking at, just to have, so that night I'm not scrambling saying,
Really
I don't
good
have
idea.
that
Yeah,
information.
no, I think that's good.
If I get it ahead of time, I can have like the breakdown for those line items, and then at least the discussion can happen then. It'll just
Yeah.
like save on time to be able to get right
No, I
to
think-
it.
I was just gonna say, just to clarify, the action item that is required tonight is just approving the
Total.
446 and
Correct.
change.
Just no,
correct?
you're gonna just approve the new budget, FY '25 approved budget, which is the 22,651,207.
Oh, so just, okay, so
Correct.
that is the only
Because of the
action that
right.
needs to happen, okay.
Because of the change that happened at town meeting,
course,
that
okay.
wasn't the original number that we had.
So, did you want to say something? I was going to.
No, I was just going to add, if we can get something on the calendar for next week sometime to discuss this. I think if we coordinate that now, it may be easier than,
I think we need to, because,
Over email.
Yeah.
Mr. Miller has to post it, and
Right,
it can get tricky.
I'm unavailable Monday.
I have Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
Tuesday would be the only day that I would be available next week
Okay.
for this.
I'm available, virtually I'm available Tuesday, like later in the afternoon, maybe? Like 3 or 4?
I could probably do 4 PM.
4 on Tuesday would work, and we're talking a Zoom, we're talking about an online
Virtual
session, yeah.
Virtual.
Or on
Would
Tuesday.
that be okay with you, Jason?
Tuesday, the 21st.
Tuesday,
works. Yeah.
Tuesday the 21st at 4 PM.
Mr. Pacheco, can I ask you, would you be interested in, is there specific items that, or data that you would like to look at to send to Ms. Raposa beforehand?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
But-
I know, it's like,
Okay. So- My question is,
Go.
what would you need in order to give a list of line items for,
What do I need?
well,
I
my
don't believe I
question
need
is, so ideally, you would have something ahead of time.
Right, say you have some different recommendations that you'd like to look at my line item, like, the business manager's line item, like, what does, how much do you get paid, how much comes out of revolving, how much comes out of the budget, can that be adjusted all? Then it gives me just an idea of making sure that I have like the right backup, or just the right breakdown, because I'm at a school lunch conference next Tuesday, which is fine, but I may be doing it either from my car or traffic, which is fine, again, I don't mind it either way.
Not
So believe me,
driving, are
I
you?
would rather
So
do this
If
than
committee
not.
members could give Ms. Reposa an advance number,
Correct.
preferably this week, so she
Right.
has time to review it.
Any ideas or areas that
Discuss it in
you may
depth on
see
Tuesday.
could be possible, other cuts than what you see here, that I can have that documentation ready.
Does everybody have the budget book? Did you get a budget book?
I did not.
Did you get one, Jason?
I have one.
Are you able to stop in, like,
And Chris doesn't have one
next couple of
either.
days?
Yes.
Okay, just
I
go
have the
right,
proposed budget that I just printed myself off the
Offline?
website, but I don't
Okay.
have a budget
I,
book.
I have, yeah, just what was submitted to the finance committee, which is, so so it's available if I stop by to get, okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Okay.
Good.
If there's nothing further on that,
Do you need a motion to approve
we
the
do need a
budget?
motion to approve.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the total amount of the budget, which is, where is it? 22,651,207 for FY '25.
I'll make second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any further discussion? No? Okay. That carries. All right. We've gone through our action items, and we'll meet on Tuesday to discuss cuts. Routine matters, correspondence, and notices. The only thing I wanted to note is, just pulling up the dates to make sure I get it correct. The Memorial Day ceremonies in town will be happening on Saturday, May 25th, beginning at 9 a.m. And those will be at different places along town for wreath layings. The parade will take place on Monday, May 27th at 9:30 a.m. And the district participates in that. Our band is there, and the Veteran Service Office does a great job of putting that together every year. So I certainly encourage the community to show up to that and participate. Topics the chair could not reasonably anticipate 48 hours in advance of the meeting. I don't have any items, and with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Thank you.